Welcome to another Monday Mini Talk, where we talk all things Warhammer and other hobby-related stuff. And this week we got some pretty interesting articles about Old World. GW gave us a lot of teases for what is to come, and I painted a model. So let's get talking. First of all, we start with the Old World news, because we got some biggies. First, we got the moral article, which, don't get me wrong, just sucked. But the magic article that came out today is much more interesting. But first things first, let's talk morale. Now, I say this article sucked, but the thing is, we got most of the news in the combat article. So all the first part is basically old news for us. All of this morale and result of the combat, break and flee, fall back in good order, give ground, all of this we discussed last week. They gave us a little bit more about the way units retreat and react to the combat, but most of that we already knew and we should see more in the practice. But the second half, we got some news about the universal special rules, as they are called, and this is much more interesting. So all of these are back. Fear, terror, stupidity, animosity, frenzy, unbreakable, stubborn, and hatred. We got previewed just some of these. So we got fear, terror, and frenzy, but other than that, all the rest are quite self-explanatory, mostly if you played the old fantasy battles. So we take a look at fear, terror, and frenzy, but just for the others. If I remember correctly, stupidity was just morale before the movement, or basically any action for example, trolls. Animosity, not really sure, but it was mostly for the beasts. Unbreakable was basically immune to psychology for example, slayers or other just crazy units. Stubborn gave you just an advantage with the morale and stuff. For example, I believe greatswords got the more elite infantry. So, as I said, we got previewed fear and terror, but mostly fear works basically the same as it did. Basically, if you want to charge a unit with a fear, you must take a leadership test first, or you will fail. Or if you are already in a combat with monster that causes a fear, you are -1 to hit if you fail. And terror is, as it should be, a class higher. So if you are charged by a beast with this effect, you have to take a leadership test, or you just flee. And yeah, it also causes extra -1 penalty to unit leadership, so that's good. But we also got our first datasheet, so we get a better picture of what is to come with this setting. So we have a Dragon Ogre Shagot here, and the datasheet looks basically the same as it did with fantasy battles, and we got previewed a lot of these stats a little earlier in these Old World almanacs. So we got movement, weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, wounds, initiative, attacks, and leadership. But more, we got all the universal or specific special rules. So we get a little sneak peek of what all of these are and of what they do. So for example, stomp attacks, probably some impact hits when charging. Now, the last thing we got was some magic enchantment that causes a frenzy, which means the models get extra attack and get immunity from fear and terror, which is good, but the downside to that is they can never choose to flee from a charge, which we will have to see how it works. But from this we get a pretty nice transition into the magic, which we got previewed today, and this is much more interesting. So we already know a little bit about how the magic works in the Old World. So basically there is no magic phase. We got the command, movement, shooting, and combat phase, and the magic phase is within parts of all of these phases. And with this we got, and I also mentioned it in my earlier video, we did have some pretty major questions, and we got a lot of answers in this article. So Wizardry 101. as I talked about it earlier, the setting is set around 250 or 300 years before basically the end times. And in this time, there were no colleges of magic in the empire, but the imperial wizards still existed and still practiced magic. But it's good to see that they address this thing a little bit. So we do not have the colleges of magic or the inns of magic as we had them before, like as we have them in Total War, like the fire, death, life, light, and stuff like that. But we got a little bit different lores of magic. So we get battle magic, dark magic, demonology, elementalism, high magic, illusion, necromancy, and Wa. And it's good to see that most of the mages will have access to 2 or more of these. We will later see a damsel of Bretonia, which has, I believe, 3 of the different college magics, but it looks good like this. So take a look at the categories again. So each lore has a 7 spells, or basically each lore has a 6 plus 1 spell. One spell is a signature spell and is always available to you. Now we got a little bit confirmation about how the magic users work in the old world. So every magic user has a level, basically. We did not get it confirmed, but what we had in the fantasy was a lower tier, which was heroes, and the higher tier, which were lords. So basically heroes were 1 or 2 power level, and the lords were 3 or 4 power level. We got confirmed that it's the same with the old world, we just don't really know how the whole thing, heroes, lords, works. We got a little bit confirmation here that the higher tier or higher level of the mage is, the more spells he knows. I wonder if this is something that is preset in the list building phase, or is determined in random before the game, which I don't believe we got it confirmed. If we did, just let me know down in the comments. But now we have the spell categories. So every, or probably every college of magic will have one of these 6 categories plus one that is a signature. And we know most of these, so we have enchantments, hexes, conveyance spells, magic missiles, magic vortexes, and assignments. And all of these are cast in their appropriate phases of the game, but we already knew that. Now, we had another quite major confirmation about just the conjuration of the spell. So each conjuration has a casting value, which we already saw in some data sheets. And the way it is cast is much more simplified. So basically you cast any spell on a 2d6 plus the power level or the skill level of the caster. So if you have just some damsel, which is level 1, you cast a 2d6 plus 1. There is no Winds of Magic power pool or pool of dice, so it tells me that you can basically cast any number of the spells, but it's good that you can basically, if you have a power level 4 wizard, which should know, let's say, 5 spells of the 7, he can cast a spell in basically every phase of the game, or it should be like statistically possible for him to do spell in every phase of the game. So that's quite interesting. We'll have to see how that works. But it's good that it's not just 5 magic missiles that he can just shoot without basically any worry. It will make the wizards really powerful, but we'll see that there are some downsides to that. And the first downside is the good old miscast. So if you cast a spell and you roll double 1, miscast the spell. That's really bad. And then it doesn't matter if you basically with the power level of the wizard casted the spell or not. Double 1, always miscast. You go to the miscast table, which is here, and basically these results tell you what happens. And mostly all of them are bad. So don't miscast. Now we have a good confirmation that basically every spellcaster or some unit, or in case of the dwarves, runesmiths and rune lords, can attempt to dispel their opponent's spells. But there is a first thing that is quite interesting. They have to be within 18 inches of the caster, or 24 if they are higher power level. And the attempt to dispel is basically the same as the attempt to cast. Roll 2d6 at the level of your unit that is doing the dispel, and if you beat the cast, you basically cancel the effect of the spell. Again, if you roll double 1, it's bad. If you roll double 6, it's all good, and you dispel the spell. Now we get the confirmation about just the effect of some magic items and things like that, or maybe some special rules, which makes your casters much stronger. And we have some great confirmation that some certain units, dwarves are mentioned, but I'm sure that there will be more units, have some innate resistance to magic. So, but we'll have to see how basically that works. Maybe with some word save or some more dispel possibility. But now we got our first full datasheet. So Handmaidens of the Lady. We got 2 tiers, Prophetess and Damsel. Damsel being the lower one, Prophetess being the higher tier. We can see basically standard datasheet, mostly freeze all over the place. But we got some more really interesting stuff. So within the datasheets we have base size, which is great. So we have a confirmation, which we did before, but now it's part on the paper, that basically the regular infantry will have 25 by 25 mils. So that's great. Unit size 1, equipment, hand weapon. There will be probably, if it would be possible for her to get some different equipment, some probably effects of the weapons or datasheets of the weapons. But her as a basically spellcaster, she just has a hand weapon. Now we have a 3 Lords of Magic, Battle Magic, Elementalism and Illusions. We'll have to see what kind of magic she gets and how the whole, picking up these either Lords of Magics or the spell basically works. If it's just in the list building phase, or probably the Lore of Magic or the picking of the Lore of Magic will be in the list building phase, and the spells maybe before battle. I just hope it's not at random, but it always kind of sucks. And we have a confirmation that you may play with the points according to her power level. We do not have the points of the basically base damsel or base prophetess, but we know she can be a level 2 damsel if you add 30 points to her cost, or level 4 prophetess if you add again 30 points, and she can purchase magic items up to 50 or 100 points. It makes me wonder how, again, and I talked about it in earlier videos, what will be the base point battle size, because if only by the addition of the points for her basically add-ons are 80 or 130, and let's say the damsel is 50 points base, which 50 or 60 point base, that's 140 points for a hero, for I would say low tier hero, which is quite a lot, so we'll have to see. And again, she has some special rules, mostly an aura and some magic resistance reduction, and that she has a magical attacks. As we can see also, she may be mounted probably on a unicorn, and we have a datasheets for that too. Again, not really that interesting. Only thing really interesting here is the troop type monstrous cavalry, and the base size is 40 by 60. We saw these bases, I believe, with the Pegasus Knights, but again, it's a good confirmation that this is this size, and every one of you that rebases your armies, this is as good as confirmed. And the last thing we got were some signature spells for the battle magic, illusion, and elementalism. This will be spells that if you choose basically this lore of magic, you will always have. So with the battle magic, it's good to see some just damage dealers. For the illusion, some modifiers to hit, and with the elementalism, just modifiers basically to movement with some hexes. But we talked about little, let's say, nerf or little disadvantage to the magic, and it's quite apparent here because the range got, I would say, significantly lower. So basically, Hammerhand is just in the combat. Glittering Rope is just on herself, which okay is with enchantment, but she cannot cast it on like a unit that's next to her. And the Storm Call is 12 inches, and it's a hex, so you have to cast it on an enemy. And 12 inches to modify someone's movement or initiative is not really that powerful, I would say. So I think the magic will be strong, probably, or most definitely not as strong as it was in the fantasy battle, and it will, again, really hints that the movement and just, the tactic about the position of these units and the wizards will take a great place in the game. It will be really important. That's all for the magic. Next week we get some Grail Knights, but mostly we take a look at the universal special rules. Hopefully this is another good article, because now it feels like it's 50-50 for a really interesting and really good article, and something a little bit on the boring side. So let's hope it's on the good side again. But that's not all what we got from the GW this past week. We also got these 4 images of basically what is to come in the next year. We got it in a form of, let's say, Christmas calendar, and all of these are just, teases, just some rumors and stuff they're trying to basically get us hyped about. We don't really know which of these pictures relates to 40k or to AOS or fantasy or any kind of stuff, but we have a pretty good guess about at least some of these. So first we got this, let's say, part of the wing. So we are probably expecting either Blood Angel release the next year. So I would say it might be some Sanguinary Guard or Sanguinary Priest, maybe a Sanguinor, or probably some other special character like Astorath or something like that. That would be my guess. Second, we got this skeleton with a Purity Steel in something that looks like flames. This might be connected to probably Dark Angels or just some AOS stuff. It's not really for me to say, but if anyone knows something about these images, let me know down below. But the third one is really interesting because this just screams Creek, and we've been expecting some Creek release in some shape or form. So maybe another, let's say, upgrade sprue or another unit or tank, or maybe a whole range refresh for the Astra Militarum Codex. And the last one is, your call is as good as mine, because that's probably for the AOS. Let's just hope when these do come out and GW releases these models, we will get some confirmation for what these pictures were meant for and what these releases are all about. But with that, that would be all from me and this week's Monday Mini Talk. Thank you guys for watching and listening to me ramble about all these releases. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like or subscribe to the channel if you want to support me in my endeavor on YouTube. And I will see you very, very soon. Bye.